I thought it would be interesting for us in this nugget to take off the training wheels a little bit and have you do a lab on your own. Now, have no fear, you already know how to do what I'm about to ask you to do because we did it in the previous nugget. In the previous video and associated lab, we created a new switch, and we did it on ESXi2. And that new switch was named vSwitch 1. Now, the problem with vSwitch 1 is that it only exists on ESXi2. It would also be nice and convenient if we had that same logical switch and the same port group also on ESXi1 and ESXi3. And one of the reasons is that when we get to the vMotion part of our show and we learn how we can move or migrate a virtual machine from one ESXi host to another, one of the challenges is if the networking doesn't match, for example, the port group that this VM was in here doesn't exist on the ESXi host over here, that could cause a wrinkle or two when we want to move a VM from one host over to another. So, my friend, here's your mission, should you choose to accept it. On ESXi1 and ESXi3, these guys right here, I'd like you to create a new vSwitch 1 on those two ESXi hosts. And on that new vSwitch, I'd like you to go ahead and use VMNIC 5 as the uplink. And that'll be going to the VM network. So behind the scenes, the physical connectivity is already there. And what we're doing with the new vSwitch is simply telling it to use that physical interface, VMNIC 5, which connects to that VM network. I'd also like you to create a new VM port group associated with Switch 1, and I'd like you to name it exactly this, capital N EW dash capital VM underscore capital N ETWORK. Just like we did on ESXi2. So at the end of the day, when you're done with this lab, all three of these ESXi hosts will all have vSwitch 1. They'll all be using their physical interface VMNIC 5 for the uplink, and each of those switches will all have a VM port group called new-VM underscore network. And in this nugget, I'm going to have you do the lab on your own. So if you need a refresher on any of those steps of creating the new switch or the port group or associating the VMNIC with that switch, go ahead and take a look at the previous nugget, which walks you through step by step with a live demonstration of exactly how to do that. So have some fun in the hands-on lab, get some additional practice working with vSwitches, and I'll see you, my friend, in the very next nugget. Meanwhile, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.